Your answer was, I want fame. There you go.
Well, I don't think that us as a group can make much changes to kids. I know that when I was a young guy, I was perfect, but then I forgot. But then I forgot about it. But what I will agree with you is that the government has played a role in making it difficult for us to hire employees. We ran into a recession, a very nasty recession, and we all paid an expensive price for it. Our business went down, our profits went down. The only thing that went up was our cost of labor per hour. There's an inflexibility in labor rates when you go into meltdowns, and that it's been an inhibitor of growth of employment. And why should anybody want to roll up their sleeves and go into manufacturing when you can get 99 weeks of unemployment when you were working as a communicator for Revlon or whatever the kids come out of college doing today? The government needs to get out of the way and stop being an impediment for wanting people to get back into the workforce. And if that's manufacturing, great. If it's something else, great. But they need to want to get back in the workforce first.
Hi, I'm Bob Cole. I'm the Chief Academic Officer at Allentown School District. So when we talk to parents, and I'm a parent of a 7th grade student myself, it's very hard working, by the way. You know, this notion of college equals success, and when I think about my son, who I can't go a weekend without going to Home Depot and buying materials so he can build things on the weekend, I know that he has a gift. But as a parent and as an educator, how can you sell this to me so that I can put it against a college education and say, hey, look, this is you're going to get the same bang for the buck, if not better. And I referenced some of the academics out there who are saying now that you're really better off not paying for that Harvard degree because you can take the same money and invest it in your child in starting a small business or whatever in manufacturing. Convince me as a parent, as an educator, and give me the tools and give me the words to say that one equals the other or is better than the other, and I'm off to the races.
I was going to comment in Gene Irvin's comments earlier today. B. Braun partnered with the Catasauqua School District. And what we did was expose kids to careers in manufacturing. So both white collar and blue collar. And we worked with the school district, and it's been very successful. We've ran the program for the last year, so a 45-day curriculum. They actually come into our plant in Allentown. They see what we do. We put them through a variety of exercises. We then send some of our employees out to the school to run, if it's somebody in science, an experiment, and so forth, and really interact with those kids and get them charged up about, do they want a white-collar job, a science job, technology-driven job, or do they want a blue-collar? And I mentioned in my opening statement, the blue-collar folks that we have today are professional hourly. They make upwards of over $30 an hour, okay, straight pay without overtime. So with terrific benefits, that's a lot of money. And, I'm in the medical industry, so unlike some of the other folks up here, whether there's a good economy or a bad economy, people get sick, they generally need our products. So we're fairly fortunate being somewhat recession-proof. But finding those folks, getting them interested, one of the things we're doing is reaching out to schools and getting folks, and we're doing this at the 9th grade level. So we'll repeat it at the 11th grade level, but we'll keep it going at the 9th grade level. And some of the parents in Catasauqua is in the school district that our plant is over by the Lehigh Valley Airport. And, some of the parents work at the plant, many of them don't, but I think that's at least a start.
I attended that, and I was very impressed. And what I want to conclude in my statements, and then I'll shut up, is in public education, we are very much subjected to the parental, what parents want. And so when we propose new curriculum, when we propose aligning our system around a competency-based system and stop chasing credits, because if you think about it, credits really don't equal anything except if you're pursuing an athletic career in the NCAA. If you change your system to be a competency-based system and you develop the articulation agreements with the manufacturing sector and other sectors, that's all well and good. Where the rubber hits the road is when you're at the board meeting and the parents stand up and say, wait a minute, I want my kid to be a doctor or a lawyer or go to college. That's where we hit a lot of our pushback. That public education, I don't believe, is necessarily opposed to this type of partnering. It's that we are public education, and we are driven by our constituents, which are our parents.
I'm an engineer, and just real quick, and I look on return on investments and so forth, okay, and I saw something one time that said that if you take a look at the return on investment, it's between 6 to 10 times better return if you're educating, your child in tool and die training as opposed to being a history teacher or something as such.
You're preaching to the choir. My point is, let's talk to the parents. Let's get the parents on board with those statistics, and I think that will be okay. We're having trouble translating that for our constituents, which are our parents.
Yeah, I think that was, I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose that, because actually I think that's a good action item that would come out of this discussion is a one-page numbers. What are the numbers? I think obviously, just like Jack alluded to, your return on investment is higher. Your speed to investment, return on investment, is immediate. If we can get them out of the high school level with a basic, solid education that can put them into the manufacturing floor, they will make as much coming out of high school as somebody going through a 4-year degree, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and coming out with the exact same income after that investment's made. And again, I think after that 4-year period, if you track that, that person would be at least 30 to 40% higher on the wage income basis as somebody going through that 4-year program. So I think, the action item is really just putting that one-pager together, and that becomes part of our propaganda that would go out. But I think, we are missing that, and we shy away from, I think, historically talking about dollars in manufacturing because it wasn't always the case. Sometimes manufacturing was a low-paid job. That's not the case anymore, and I think that's one of the big pieces that we need to change. And just one other quick thing on that, I think at the school level, one of the real challenges is that we are pushing the kids that are perceived to have behavior problems toward trades. So it's not just so much that we're pushing kids toward 4-year degrees, we're also having an aggressive pursuit to push kids that, again, I'm not saying they're bad kids, I'm saying they have bad behaviors. And we're pushing them toward the trades. So when you're talking about kids going maybe into the trades with, pins and needles in their face, well, we're kind of creating that at the high school level, I perceive, and pushing them toward the trade skill. So I think one thing that would have to change absolutely immediately is that changes, where there is a testing level to get into a vocational program, that, we don't want D and C students. We want A and B students who have a desire to get into that. Because what happens is you take an A, B student and put them into a vocational program where you've historically recruited poor behaving kids. Well, that behavior is going to overwhelm that individual. So I don't want to put my kid into that program, even though they may show great skills toward engineering or something along those lines, because I'm afraid they're going to be stabbed with a drill bit in the machine shop. So, I'm not going to put them in that environment. So if we can change that environment, I think you'll see parents more open to putting their children in those kind of programs. Additionally, if there's any way we can bring that back into the homeschool, meaning, I don't know what it's like here, but in Schuylkill County, there's 13 or 14 schools. They all send kids to one central vocational program. If we can bring that back into the homeschool, I think that's going to be a really big piece, because now you have a student, we're not necessarily after the top 10 in the class. We also don't want the bottom 20 in the class either. The ones that are going to be able to provide the best input into manufacturing is the middle tier. Kids that have great skills. They may not be, again, the top 10, but they've got great skills, great education, they know their things. If we can keep them at the homeschool, that they don't have to leave and go make new friends at a different place, they can participate easily in sports and programs and be with their friends, I think that's a big step. One way to do that, you're not going to be able to make the investment in the type of equipment you need to do all that for the trades One thing we actually developed several years ago, and it never got off the ground because of a funding issue, was an actual kiosk or whatever, a simulator that kids would be able to go in, and it was a CNC simulator that they would actually be able to go through everything it would take to make a part. We even had it set up where it would give them problem-solving skills, because it would give them a problem and say, here's a problem, how are you going to fix it? Taught them good work behaviors, because when they would have to select the tools for a particular job, they would have to select all the tools or it wouldn't allow them to advance to the next piece. We also made it an interactive gaming module so that they would be able to, capitalizing on the gaming philosophies of kids and the desire to game, it was all connected to the different schools so that you would actually be able to game against somebody on the same machined part in Texas or in wherever. Again, it's a great idea. It lacks a lot of funding, and it really needs something that would get off the ground. But you can translate that into everything. It doesn't have to be machining. The exact same simulator could be used for carpentry or anything along those lines. Did you have another question?
No, you referenced the top 10 and the bottom 10%. What I'm proposing here is to get away. We are truly serious about getting away from this idea that top and bottom percentage of students going to manufacturing, is to transform our systems into competency-based systems, where we're not ranking students any longer, where all students will hit a minimum proficiency of Algebra 1 and English Comp proficiency. And so once you hit that proficiency level, you qualify to go and pick a pathway within the system through our partnerships. And that's what Allentown is up to right now. Other districts across the country are looking at the same transformation. The rubber hits the road when school boards are confronted by mobs of parents who say, we love our credits, we love our ranking, we love our students who are A++ and qualifying to go to Ivy League schools. That's our challenge in public education. It's not so much fighting that bias, but it's trying to transform the system and getting our public to understand that to truly get rid of this ideology, we have to transform the system away from a credit-chasing system into a competency-based system.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree with that. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I certainly can appreciate your challenge as an educator with a diverse group you've got, and I certainly don't have the answer on that.
And I think back over 50 years ago when I was a kid, and I remember I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I went through the Heinz plant. And to this day, I remember the gravity system that they had for all their products to go eventually from the different floors down to the basement where it finally would ship out. And I thought that was so cool. But, I was 12, 13 years old, and I just said, this is good stuff. But, same thing they were saying over here. How many of the kids have actually gone and looked at any of these companies? And I think that's what we need to be doing here. We need to educate the kids, but more important, and the parents. Maybe we need to get them both there. But somehow people have to understand that manufacturing today is different, and the vast majority of the talents that you learn are transferable. I mean, a machinist today can get a job anywhere in the United States, and I don't care where you go, any city in the United States, because there's that much of a shortage, and there's a need for that talent, and it's used throughout the manufacturing system. Where at Bethlehem Steel, if you poured steel, that's kind of hard to transfer that talent to somewhere else. But all of manufacturing is niches, and that's exactly what we have here. Yep.
Number two, perception becomes reality. Sometimes the perception of something take a stab at it. First of all, I just wanted to, I'll get to that in a second, but talk, there's several people in the audience and on this panel that serve along with Jack in the MRC in a board function. And our last board meeting, we spent, I don't know, Bill, 45 minutes on this very subject about, attracting an image of manufacturing, and it was all focused on manufacturing. So I think the key here, one of the points is that we've got medical, we have industrial products here, we've got, fine arts, I guess, and all the way down the line here. And so we can't serve any one particular field. For kids, it's got to be cool. For parents, it's got to make sense. So you put the two together, and I think the key here is all of the educational comments that were made, and I think that was really a good discussion. I sat on a board that was for the VOTEC schools in Bucks County about 20 years ago. I was right out of school myself and very energetic and wanting to give back. And one of the blocks that we got into in that arena was that the school systems were being evaluated based on how many graduating students were going to go on to college. And that was a key metric for them to get funding, to get notoriety, to get all the things that they needed to have a healthy school program. So here we were supporting the VOTEC program, and the guidance counselors of the schools were sitting down with students one by one, basically talking them into college preparatory and talking them away from the vocational programs. So to Bill's point earlier, what was going in that direction where, the kids that weren't doing real well in school probably couldn't get into college, or maybe some of the misfits that, just go in the VOTEC school so we don't have to deal with you daily. So back to the question, I think the key here is it's got to be cool, it's got to make sense, but we can't start this at the federal level, we can't start this at the state level, we got to start this at the local level right here in the Lehigh Valley. We've got an audience here, and we've got companies in the valley that have the voices, they've got the stripes, they got credentials, we got some people in the room here, the former CEO of Air Products that started the company when it was only $2 million in revenue, and told us a story at lunchtime. That is what Lehigh Valley is all about. Those stories need to get elevated to the forefront and circulated throughout our community. So it's PR, which again, I'm with Bill, I'm not a PR guy, but I know what grabs my attention, I know what grabs my kids' attention. And you got to roll that up in a way that's going to feed into the schools, feed into the parents, billboards up and down the highways. I mean, I love the Got Milk, program that was released. I don't know if it was from the Dairy Products Association or who that was all about, but that got people's attention. Next thing you know, you have movie stars with the white mustache and other people that people recognize, and milk became cool again. So manufacturing needs to become cool again, and we need to find a way to do that, a way to communicate that, and a way to showcase that. Charlton Heston was the president of the NRA, and for those of you that like to bear arms, that was an image that the NRA chose to put on a pedestal to share with the American citizens, and some people gravitated to that, some people didn't. We need to be very careful on what that is and make sure that the bases are covered. And I think that's the key to a panel, it's the key to a summit, and it is to get takeaways and get some some traction with where we're going with this.